Greetings, listener, and welcome back to Dark and Disturbed Tales. I am your Master of Ceremonies, Steve Taylor. Many of us have gone on a vacation or an adventure to different parts of the world. To commemorate our experience, we might bring back a trinket of some sort to show friends and family. Well, tonight we meet a man who has just returned from a trip to Africa. And does he have a story to tell? Also, he has brought back something terrifying. So without further ado, I present to you The African Bowana Spider, written by Vicent Vena Cava, narrated by Beatlesfanize, featuring The Ghost of 94.
Dr. Tweed! So nice to finally see you again. I trust you have many stories to tell me about your adventures in the deep heart of Africa? Dr. Tweed beamed with sheer delight as he greeted his colleague at the door. A red bow tie attached to the top of his khaki blazer gave the fellow an eccentric yet scholarly appearance. The old man squinted through his bifocals while beckoning Robert to the table, where 2 cups of hot tea had already been poured.
Robert, my good man. Yes, of course. Join me for some tea, and I shall regale you with the tale regarding the most curious creature this old man has ever had the pleasure of coming across in all his years of gallivanting around the globe.
Friendly exchange of smiles and pleasant handshakes later, and the 2 men had taken their seats. So, Doctor, tell me about this mysterious creature of yours. Dr. Tweed's eyes lit up like a pair of bright blue sapphires.
Ah, yes. The African Bowana spider, named after the indigenous people who reside in the section of the jungle where the creature originally hails. It's a massive arachnid, I dare say. The thing is about 1/2 meter in diameter. But that's not the most interesting tidbit about it.
Good God, man! Robert gasped. I beg your pardon, Doctor, but I'm finding it quite hard to swallow that your interest in this, in the tremendous girth of the spider, would be eclipsed by an even more fascinating factoid. The old man's lips curled into the slightest smirk upon hearing Robert's retort.
Oh, but eclipse us it did. My dear friend, perhaps you will understand once you hear this remarkable anecdote. On my 21st night of exploring the Dark Continent, we found that one of our pack mules had begun demonstrating bizarre and erratic behavior. The beast had started to crow and moan, as though it was suffering from some sort of horrible illness. Our guide had previously warned our party that the primeval forest we had made camp in was filled with poisonous asps, adders, and mombas, along with other deadly serpents. So, I'm naturally hypnotized that it had fallen victim to one of the jungle's venomous vipers. However, upon further examination, I could find no evidence of teeth marks on the animal, no wounds or pricks, not a single thing that would indicate it had been attacked.
That sounds like quite the conundrum, Doctor.
Indeed it was. Even more curious was the fact that though I'd found the animal's behavior to be somewhat unnerving, many of our party's guides seemed to be downright terrified at the sight of the mule's predicament. A few of them even ran off from the campsite into the darkness of the untamed jungle by themselves. The fools. I loaded my rifle in order to put the creature out of its misery, as it was writhing on the ground and seemed to be suffering quite considerably. But before I had a chance to pull the trigger, my eyes witnessed a truly incredible sight.
No, Doctor, you're not about to say.
Oh, but I am. Out of the animal's mouth crawled the Bowana spider.
Dr. Tweed took a sip of his tea. Robert could tell by his friend's reaction that it was still a bit too hot to drink.
And like I said before, it was colossal. I do love the cura. I suppose I should let it cool a bit before I enjoy it, though. Anyway, like I said before, it was colossal. Now, I haven't quite figured out how the giant thing was able to contort its body enough to crawl its way out of the beast's mouth. I do have a theory about what it was doing in there in the first place.
Tweed paused for a moment for dramatic effect, reveling in the sheer mystery of his account. Well, out with it then. I must say, good doctor, that I am absolutely enthralled by this story of yours. You must tell me what happened next.
As it turns out, this particular species of arachnid has become quite feared by the natives. It's the reason why some of the party's guides had chosen to take their chances among the ferocious wildlife and poisonous flora of the jungle, instead of staying at the camp. Once they realized what was behind all the ruckus, the remaining guides insisted that I shoot the spider. But you know me, Robert. I am a man of science, and what kind of academician would I be if I ended the life of such a spectacular specimen? An arthropod of such astonishing peculiarities must be studied alive.
Robert interjected once more. But, Doctor, you still haven't explained what it was doing inside the mule's mouth.
Have patience, my good man. All will be revealed in time. You see, the natives believe this spider to be some sort of blood-sucking demon that feasts upon the very life force of a man, bleeding him dry until he becomes nothing more than a withered husk. Obviously, an educated bloke like myself will dismiss such notions as nothing but foolish superstitions, but I do believe these primitive myths were onto something. Nevertheless, there is always a scientific explanation for these things. From my brief encounter with the creature, I have gathered that the eight-legged Goliath has evolved the most extraordinary of survival tactics. It appears that the spider entered our mule through its oral cavity. From there, it may have attached itself in some way to the beast's nervous system, granting it full access to the mule's movements and vocal patterns, essentially rendering the animal a useless puppet. What I'm saying, Robert, is that this creature was wearing our unfortunate mule like a hat on Sunday, and all of us were none the wiser. I have since postulated that the arachnid had made itself at home in the body of its hoof host, feeding on its spinal fluids, just long enough for it to plant a revolting sack of eggs.
Robert's eyes widened with interest. What an intriguing yet horrifying story. Doctor, perhaps the guides that fled into the night weren't as foolish as you say. Could you imagine what would happen if a thing like that was loose here in England? people would be in quite a panic." He and the old man shared a chuckle. The doctor took another sip of his tea.
Could I imagine, Robert? I dare say it already is.
Dr. Tweed's head suddenly cocked back in a violent manner, terrible gagging noises emanating from his throat as blood began trickling from his eyes, ears, and nose. 8 long, spindly legs emerged from his mouth. "Good God, Doctor!"
That was extremely disturbing. Good God is right. Oh my, I've always wanted to visit Cameroon and taking a bicycle trip all around that great equatorial country, but now I don't think I'm ever going to visit Africa. Who knows what might come back with me? I want to thank you, listener, for joining me tonight here at Dark and Disturbed Tales. I am your host, Steve Taylor. Until next time, pleasant dreams.